Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Jeffrey.
Elise, are we ready to get started?
You are all set.
Okay. And how many speakers do we have signed up?
Let's see. I have 5 speakers who have signed up in advance. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, good evening. Today's date is June 15th of 2021. This public hearing has been called by the Laws and Rules Committee of the Common Council of the City of Kingston regarding accessory dwelling units, ADUs. In a few moments, City Clerk Elisa Tinti will call on the callers that are signed up. When she calls your name, please unmute yourself and state your name and address clearly for the record. In attendance today are Alderman Doug Coop, Ward 2, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, Ward 3, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, Ward 9, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, Ward 4, and Alderman Tony Davis, Ward 6, sorry, as well as City Clerk Elisa Tinti. It is now 6:32, and I call this public hearing to order. Can you call the first speaker, please, Elisa?
Tatsky.
Was my name called Eileen Katatsky? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you please state your name and address for the record, and then you may speak, please?
Will do. I'm Eileen Katatsky. I live at 209 North Manor Avenue in Kingston, New York.
Thank you. You can go ahead and speak.
Yes, I'm a resident and property owner in the city of Kingston. My husband and I are not in favor of the proposed changes to our current ADU zoning legislation. The proposed changes will neither resolve Kingston's current housing issues, nor will it benefit the homeowners. These proposed changes are based entirely word for word on proposed New York State Senate bill, which languished in committee. It was sponsored almost entirely by metropolitan area legislators. If reintroduced in the next session, it could be drastically revised or never adopted. Why would the Common Council consider using a hypothetical law as a template? During a recent Laws and Rules Committee meeting, the mayor estimated that merely 20 or so units may be proposed per year. Why would we amend our zoning essentially, eliminating single-family homes throughout our city to accommodate so few applicants? May I remind the council that we currently have a process in place for review and approval of ADUs. A section of the proposal regarding requirements for owner occupancy is very weak, but rich with opportunity for developers and landlords rather than the intended beneficiaries. Although the premise for the change may be based on good intentions, the enactment of the law may prove difficult as it is wrought with loopholes. The most obvious and disturbing question is how would the proposed law be regulated and administered? The ADU legislation would be reviewed, enforced, and monitored entirely by the City Building and Safety Department. The burden of this law would be forced on an already understaffed and busy department. Has any research been done to compare this proposal with other communities in Ulster County? Have there been discussions with our recently hired zoning consultants for their input? I myself have reached out to several county, town, and villages only to find vast differences between their ADU regulations and the proposed changes. Also, how would it benefit our community to allow minimum 30-day short-term rentals? How would this provision provide for stable housing? I worry most about our city's aging infrastructure, our precious water supply, wastewater and stormwater systems, Services provided by the Department of Public Works would be further stressed by increased workload, and also additional parking would add to the current problem of streets already cluttered with vehicles in most neighborhoods, which would impede trash pickup, snow removal, and so forth. In speaking with other homeowners, not one person was aware of this proposed zoning change. This process has moved too quickly and may have long-range unintended consequences. Again, the provisions of the law are impossible to regulate, enforce, monitor, or review. And the changes proposed would, in essence, eliminate single-family home ownership. Families throughout our city have made life-altering decisions when choosing a home based on a variety of factors. Home ownership came with certain expectations. Please do not upend these expectations with a zoning bait and switch after investments have been made and futures planned. I would strongly urge the Common Council members to read carefully the City of Kingston Planning Board letter of denial dated May 18th and a letter submitted today by Attorney Daniel Hepner, both posted under the agenda section of the public hearing announcement. This ADU zoning change would negatively affect residents and departments delivering essential services to us all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Linda Bradley.
Linda Bradley, if you're on the call, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record?
Hi, I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Yes, my name is Linda Bradley. I live at 215 North Manor Avenue in Kingston.
Thank you. You can go ahead and speak.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. As I said, my name is Linda Bradley. I live in the house that my husband's family has owned for over 40 years. I recognize that there is an overall housing shortage in the city of Kingston. However, I do not believe eliminating the current zoning laws in an effort to fit more people into existing residences is a smart or viable solution. It may create more issues than it attempts to solve. This bill also makes little sense given an outside firm has been hired by the city to conduct a study of our current zoning laws, and their findings have not yet been shared. It seems highly premature to pass this legislation before such findings are released. This bill also threatens to destroy the character and nature of many neighborhoods in Kingston that are primarily made up of single-family homes. People have moved and stayed in these neighborhoods because of the nature of the neighborhood itself as much as for the property they live in. This law will allow almost any single-family residence to be transformed into a two-family rental property. The law does not even require the property owner, also does not even require the property be owner occupied after the first year of rental, opening up the possibility that each of these units could become pure investment properties for absentee landlords. This opens these properties and neighborhoods up to a whole host of potential problems. While the bill requires each rental must be a minimum of 30 days, I don't believe that clause sufficiently eliminates the risk these units will not be used for short-term rental purposes. This could subject residents of these neighborhoods to transient tenants not concerned at all with the neighborhoods or respective residents of these neighborhoods. As you know, every law is only as good as the government's ability to enforce it. It seems that the City Building and Safety Department has its hands more than full enforcing the current building code. Without a significant influx of resources aimed directly at enforcement of this bill and these properties, I have great concern that even the few restrictions in this bill will not be strictly and meaningfully enforced. Just one absentee landlord or one property being used illegally and irresponsibly can destroy the quiet enjoyment of a neighborhood by its residents. The additional enforcement responsibility placed on a city department that is already stressed with its current enforcement obligations creates a real risk that these problems will in fact occur. Kingston could be faced with an out-of-control short-term rental problem that will rival the issues some of our surrounding communities are already experiencing. Another added concern is the potential snow removal issues brought on by the need for on-street parking for these tenants. There will also be an increase in the trash required to be picked up by the sanitation department. These are issues that have not been considered or discussed. Additional resources from these departments and additional enforcement mean increased tax dollars on already heavy tax burdens of Kingston property owners. Trying to justify the passing of this law on the notion that a state law has been proposed to handle the same issue and, quote, it's going to happen anyway, seems preposterous and nonsensical. As we all know, hundreds of state bills are proposed each year in Albany by our state legislature, and most never become law. Ironically, the bill being focused here never made it out of committee, and the legislative session ended last week, meaning it was not voted on and will not be passed this year. For all we know, it may never be proposed again. In closing, the idea of eliminating the current zoning laws in an attempt to create rental properties in single-family residential neighborhoods threatens the character and nature of these neighborhoods permanently. The obvious lack of enforcement resources make the risk of potential negative lasting effects of this bill even more apparent. I would ask that you not pass this bill and come up with another solution to handle the housing shortage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jeff Embry.
Can you repeat that name, please, Elisa?
Jeff Embry.
Jeff Embry, if you're on the call, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record? Okay, I'm guessing he is not on the call. If I will give you a chance, if you couldn't log in for some reason, I'll call your name after. Oh, are you there? Okay, what's the next speaker, Elisa?
Emily Carey.
Emily Carey, are you on the call?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you state your address
Hi.
for the record, please?
Yes, good evening, 295 West Chestnut Street.
Thank you. You can go ahead and speak.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. My husband, who was just mentioned, Jeffrey Embry, and I strongly oppose the proposed legislation for all of the aforementioned reasons that have been covered so eloquently by our fellow residents, namely serious concerns about parking, traffic, density, character of neighborhoods, municipal burden, enforcement concerns, potential for abuse, and a variety of other issues. I strongly encourage a more thorough review of potential solutions to this, and again, strongly oppose the proposed legislation. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you. Would Jeff also want to speak, or were you speaking on behalf of both of you?
Yes, I was speaking. He unfortunately is stuck in a meeting, so I was speaking on behalf of both of us.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I believe that was all the speakers that had signed up to speak, correct, Elisa?
No, actually, there's one more, Jess Mullen.
Okay, Jess Mullen. If you're on the call, you can unmute yourself, please. Okay, I'm not seeing any new callers join. So if you're on the call or if you're watching on YouTube, I'll give you a couple seconds to join through Zoom so you can speak. In the meantime, anybody else who didn't have a chance to sign up who would like to speak? Are there any callers who didn't sign up who wish to speak in favor of the accessory dwelling units? Any callers who wish to speak in favor of the accessory dwelling units? Any callers who wish to speak in favor of the accessory dwelling units? Any callers who wish to speak against the accessory dwelling units? Any speakers against accessory dwelling units? Any speakers against accessory dwelling units? Okay, hearing no other speakers, I will now adjourn this public hearing at 6:46 p.m. on June 15th, 2021. Thank you, everyone. I believe that's all. Have a good evening. See you all tomorrow at Laws and Rules.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Thank you.